So is this, oh, it's on. All right. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Well, thank you for being here. So I'm going to make a brief statement and then also introduce our sheriff and another partner of ours. And again, I really appreciate everyone being here. I want to specifically recognize members and leaders from the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, from Nobody Leaves Mid-Hudson, from Citizen Action, and I believe also from Rise Up Kingston. Thank you all for being here and for standing in solidarity with us on this. And so what we're here to do today, in light of statements and threats coming out of Washington, D.C., we are here to make a clear, unequivocal statement about our values as a county and our values as a community. We reject division, we reject fear-mongering, we reject xenophobia. We stand for justice for every single person and resident in this county. We embrace diversity, and we recognize that in our diversity there's tremendous strength and value. We welcome anyone and everyone who wants to join and be a part of our community here in Ulster County. So I'm here today to sign an executive order directing Ulster County government to not coordinate with ICE or any other federal immigration entity. Thank you. As county executive, it's my responsibility to ensure the rights and to protect the rights of every resident, the 180,000 people that we're blessed to have living in this county. And when people are forced to live in the shadows, we're all less safe. When people are forced to live in the shadows, our economy suffers. When people are forced to live in the shadows, we fail to uphold the foundational principles that have guided our country since its inception. I know this community. This is where I grew up. I know the values that have undergirded us and made this this incredible place. And we're at a moment where those are being tested and challenged. And in those moments of challenge and crisis, that's when we all have to step up. And that's when leadership is called for. So I'm proud to be here, not just myself, but as part of a group of leaders and a network of people who believe in those values and who will make our voice loud and clear on these values. So I'm also honored to introduce and hand the microphone to our sheriff, who will make a similar statement.
Thank you, County Executive, and good morning, everyone. I'm very proud to be here. I remember when you elected me in office last year, and I know what my job and role in as the caretaker of this office. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on today and the fear-mongering that's going on in our communities and in our county. Some of the things I'm going to say are not new. Law enforcement, local law enforcement, does not have jurisdiction to enforce immigration laws. Immigration laws are done by the federal government. You will never see local law enforcement, whether it's the state police, sheriff's office, or a town police department, going around knocking on doors and asking people for papers. That's never happened, and it never will happen in this county. Whenever law enforcement interacts with immigration and ICE, it's because a crime has been committed by the individual, and a crime is a misdemeanor or a felony. And it's usually a state or local crime that was violated. Again, the local entities do not enforce federal laws. Our federal government needs to change the laws and regulate federal entities. That is not the job of local government. So when people say the sheriff doesn't want to enforce the law, my job is to enforce state law. My job is to enforce local law. It is not to enforce federal law. I do not have any federal jurisdiction. I also want to talk a little bit about what a crime is. And a crime is a misdemeanor or a felony. Just strictly being here in the country, being undocumented, is a civil offense that's handled by the federal government, not state and local authorities. And none of this that I just said is new. This is stuff that's been going on for many, many years. These have been the rules and the laws that we've been under for many, many years. What is new is the federal government stating that they're going to go around knocking on doors and rounding people up. That is not the country that I'm from, which is the United States of America. That is not the community that I'm from. As a fellow veteran who took the oath of office, just like the county executive, I know what the oath is and I know what the Constitution is because I swore to it my entire life and being in government my entire life. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. The entire case of undocumented immigrants being covered and protected by the Constitution has been settled law for over 100 years and rests on one word: person. It is the word person that connects the dots of due process and equal protection in the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And it is those words that make the Constitution of our United States and its 14th Amendment the most important document since the Magna Carta, and to me, in all of world history. So I am here today in support of the county executive and in support of our Constitution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff Figueroa. As always, powerful and true leadership, which again is what's called for right now. It's also my privilege to introduce leadership from an incredible organization that's been working to help those on the margins, forced into the shadows, felt that they have no place else to go, like so many in this room have been doing. I'd like to introduce Father Frank from the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network. One, to recognize his work and the work of that organization, but also to make clear that for those who, especially in this moment of fear and anxiety and division, are concerned or need a place to go, this is one of the many places to go where you can get help and resources that you need and feel more safe and secure. You can, of course, come to us as well, but this is a problem across our community, and we're only going to solve it with an alliance. And so it's my privilege to introduce Father Frank to speak about that as well. Thank you.
I'm sometimes afraid that the ongoing political debate over immigration can, at this point, distract us from a far more immediate and urgent agenda. You can go to the mats over the merits or the foolishness of a border wall. You can demand more stringent immigration and asylum laws, or you can plead for more humane and compassionate policies. You can protest the vital importance of being a nation of laws and argue that laws are intended to defend and protect and not to threaten and destroy human lives. But you cannot and may not call yourself a decent and good human being or lay claim to being a person of any authentic faith, with the possible exception of a satanic cult, and either cause children to suffer or to stand by idly in the face of the suffering of a child, as if that child's suffering was someone else's concern. We must make space and find space to put aside the debate, and in this present and critical moment, share the more pressing agenda, ensuring that any and every child crossing our border, no matter how that crossing came to be, is safe, kept healthy, and alive. One dead child is too many. In the facilities at the southern border, hundreds of children, needlessly and cruelly separated from their parents, are living in absolutely deplorable conditions. They are cold, dirty, malnourished, sleep-deprived, at times sexually exploited, terrorized, and traumatized. They are victims of abuse. Since December 1918, 10-year-old Darlin of El Salvador and 8-year-old Felipe, 2-year-old Wilmer, 16-year-old Carlos, 7-year-old Jacqueline, and 16-year-old Juan, all from Guatemala, have died in ICE custody. If you turned on the news this morning, you were confronted with the photo of a dead father and his dead 2-year-old child floating face down in the Rio Grande River. At the announcement of each death, those in power and those having the power to make a difference predictably decline responsibility and deflect blame to someone else. My friends, I want to believe that we have the power to make the difference. In the past several weeks, if you've been paying attention to the news, 2 million people in Hong Kong took to the streets to protest an extradition law that would have, at the whim of the authorities, brought accused residents of Hong Kong to mainland China to stand trial in kangaroo courts. The people prevailed, and the government backed down. 2 million people in Hong Kong represents 25% of the population. The people of this county made a difference in electing Juan Figueroa as sheriff and Pat Ryan as county executive. And they are making a difference in the ICE non-cooperation policy that we are implementing. Thank you both. Do we have whatever measure of goodness it takes to say no to the abuse of children, and in compliance with the law, bring those criminally responsible for the deaths of those 6 children and those who continue to abuse children to justice? The law is clear. Any act or failure to act which results in the death, serious physical or emotional harm, sexual abuse, or exploitation, or an act or failure to act which presents an imminent risk of serious harm to a child is a crime. There are not good people on both sides. Good people do not abuse children. Bad people, morally bankrupt people, and sick people abuse children. These are the ones to be targeted for law enforcement action. God bless you.
So we're gonna, in a moment, sign this order, but I just want to say for a second, I am proud. I am proud of us that we, and so many of you in this room, have stood in rain and cold, have written powerful letters to the editor, have made your voices heard in every and any way that you can. Because Father Frank set the context exactly right. Our democracy is being challenged. And the only way that we resolve that is to embrace our responsibility as members of that democracy and to make our voices heard and to continue to do that. And so we are sending a message from here in Ulster County that this is what we stand for, this is what we're about, and I'm proud of that, and I think this is going to help us continue to grow and be a place where people want to come and build their family and thrive and embrace the diversity that makes this an incredible place. So thank you for being part of that, and I ask you to continue, because this fight is not going away, and we're going to have to continue to stand on this issue. So for any of you that are willing to join me as I sign this order, what I'm doing is just part of it, and so it would mean a lot to have anyone else who's willing to be part of standing with us to represent these values join me. And again, I thank you all very much for being here.
Down front, please. Hold on. So if you guys could all squeeze in behind the table.
We're obviously happy. We'll provide the full copy and text of the executive order. But again, to clarify, make it clear that no member of Ulster County government will coordinate with ICE or any other federal immigration agency. And again, I thank you all for being here and for all the work you have been doing, will continue to do. And as a message to those in our community who feel that they don't have a place to turn, you do have a place to turn. We have a network here of people who want to help and support you. So please know that. It's my honor to sign this executive order. We're happy to take a few questions as well.
I have a question for the sheriff.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We'll come up.
Okay, sure.
Make sure we get on the mic.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I know Immigration and Customs Enforcement has lent personnel to the urgent task force in the past. They may still. Will that relationship end now?
We have Homeland Security folks. They're not ICE. They're more customs guys.
Okay. Customs work?
Customs.
Okay. All right.
And Homeland Security.
Okay.
But not ICE.
Do you expect them to remain on the urgent?
I do. Again, we don't enforce immigration laws, and the task force is involved with gang activity and narcotics.
What about, this order, my understanding is that local law enforcement, like I said, never really, like you said, participate. So what changes here with this executive order? Do you make changes to your patrol manual? Are there new policies put in place? Anything that change, either for your guys or other county employees?
Yeah, I'm happy to address it too. Sure. So I think part of the importance of having both of us here is this, we are unified in this, and it affects, I think, both of our operations. So from the county government side, one of the most important things we do is deliver services to people, to residents across the community. And key to that is that anyone who needs services can feel that they're able to come to whatever agency they need to come to and not have any fear of of anything and can get the services that they need rapidly. So this affects every single department, from our social services department to our probation department and everything in between, and makes clear that these are safe places for people to come and get the services that they need, and we will not provide any information. So, for example, if someone enters our probation system and there's a request from ICE for information about their next probation appointment, we will not provide that information. That's been a tactic used repeatedly by ICE that we're not going to tolerate or enable here.
As just to follow up, as far as the sheriff's office, we do have an internal policy that was implemented in February in regards to, and again, it's the stuff that I spoke about earlier, and none of this is new. This is law enforcement, local law enforcement, and what we've been doing for many, many years. And that is, if you commit a crime, obviously you go in front of a judge and jury, and if you get convicted, then usually ICE will come in and deport you. That's not anything that's changed. What has changed, like I said, is when the federal government is sending out individuals or round people up for violations of the law, of which we locally cannot enforce because that's not our role nor our job.
I'm sorry. Last year we had an incident where we had a joint investigation of KPD, the FBI, and the DA's office. They uncovered a group from the 18th Street gang, Central American gang groups in Central America, responsible for one murder up in Sawgraves, another one in Queens. They were all in and around Kingston. I know that most of them were undocumented. Is there anything in this policy that would prevent that kind of operation, that kind of work, to get people who are involved in gang activity, violent gang activity, off the streets?
Absolutely not. Whether you're undocumented or a citizen, you break the law, you're gonna be taken to task. You're gonna go in front of a jury. You're gonna get arrested. That doesn't change, and that's been the norm in our country for many, many years. Again, this is not anything new.
Yeah, and I think just to build on that, and jump in here as well, but the key phrase is due process. What has changed is the issuance of these administrative warrants that fail to provide adequate due process. These are not judicial warrants issued by a judge following normal procedure. None of that would impact, to your question, Jesse, none of that would impact the ability to, and we absolutely will fully continue to work to cut violent crime in the county, and this won't inhibit that at all.
I just wanted to go back to something that you had mentioned previously, in the previous comments. You said that ICE has used tactics such as going to probation or going to where services are provided. Have we seen that happening in Ulster County yet?
Yes.
We have.
Definitively. Literally, and this was covered, fairly extensively, I think maybe by, not you guys, but maybe someone, maybe it was you, Jesse, actually, literally across the street. At the chef from the Anchor. One of countless examples of folks who, were, in I think a very cynical way that really does violate the ideal and the principle of due process, was in coming to a normal appointment, doing the right things, targeted and trapped, and ultimately now is not in our country and no longer a member of our community. And that's not right. That's not what we stand for.
How many times has information or cooperation on the part of probation led to someone being detained in the last 2 years?
I will find out. I can find out for you. I don't have that number in front of me, but we'll find out and follow up with it.
We have time for like one or two more questions.
Did anyone from probation reach out during this time and say that they felt uncomfortable or ask for action from the county executive's office?
No, I mean, this was a decision that we put a lot of thought and consideration into. We talked about it and staffed it as a collective team to understand the impacts and make sure we could follow through and and execute and live up to this order. I'm confident that we've done that, and we're in good shape there.
And probation was a part of that process, and they were cooperative?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is anyone from probation here?
Actually, I think the director had a meeting somewhere else, unfortunately, but she absolutely would have been here if the schedule allowed. I know this was, for all of us, relatively last minute, so I appreciate everyone.
Does the county anticipate any reprisals from the federal government as a result of your position today?
No, we don't anticipate that, and frankly, we won't allow anyone to divide us. We won't allow anyone we will not give in to that division, and we'll continue to stand unified on this, and I'm confident that we're on the right side and will not have impact.
Is it true that there was a recent sweep from ICE? Over 2 dozen ICE officers came through this area?
I'm not.
They're not required to let local law enforcement, they don't tell us when they're coming or going. I did hear something in Port Ewing a couple of months ago, but they don't have to inform local government, local law enforcement at all. They can
So
do.
You're saying they don't do that when they come through here?
They do not. They do not. They don't have to.
What do you do if you see them doing this?
They basically, and that's definitely an interesting question. So we get phone calls, and there's my job as a conservator of the peace is to make sure that the rights of our citizens are protected. With that said, they also have a job, and I can't not intervene in their actual job. So we, as a local entity, can't get involved in that.
Well, following up on those, you have New York State courts, which in April ruled that without a warrant, ICE can't actually go into courthouse. So if you have a situation, though, where ICE is in courthouse, now I don't know actually the impact of the judicial rule, but what would be your role in that situation?
Well, I mean, the folks at the court, as well as people in my office, will ask them to leave.
Ask, and then...
We would ask them to leave, and I can guarantee you they probably would leave.
If they didn't, would you be willing to move forward?
I'm sorry?
And if they didn't, and they were violating the law?
Let's not get into a tit for tat. We are part of the United States of America. We are part of the federal government. We have a federal government that we elect and vote. If you don't like the laws, change the folks that are in office and change the laws. We cannot sit here and say we're going to go against the federal government, because as you know, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I know I think we gotta wrap. I just want to make it clear, though, to your question, Callie. What we're trying to do here is every single tool and lever that we have to make it clear where we stand. That's what we're exercising here. And I ask everybody's help to use every tool and lever and channel and voice that you have. And then I hope we can get this. I hope we can get this fixed. So I know everybody needs to run. Thank you all for being here, and enjoy the day. Thank you. Good job.
I'm so sorry. Would it be possible to
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for being here, and look forward to